Una viuda de la frontera y un pistolero marginado se unen para salvar el valle. The sun rose slowly over Valle de Solís, painting the mountains with gold and amber light. The valley had always been quiet, almost forgotten by the world. The small farms, the sparkling river, and the old windmill on the hill made it look peaceful. But peace, Elena thought, was fragile, very fragile. Elena stood near the edge of the river, her boots sinking slightly into the soft mud. She gazed at the hills and beyond to where the sky met the distant mountains. Her hands rested on the worn leather strap of her rifle. The weapon was old but reliable, passed down from her husband Miguel, who had died defending the valley 2 winters ago. Since then, Elena had become both farmer and guardian, protector and leader of the villagers. The morning birds sang, unaware of the danger that was creeping toward the valley. A hum filled the air, faint at first, then louder. Elena stiffened. It was not the wind, not the river, and not any bird. It was something foreign, unnatural. She turned toward the sound and saw them, machines like nothing she had ever seen before. Tall metal walkers with spindly legs, their eyes glowing bright blue. They moved slowly but surely, cutting through the trees toward the heart of the valley. She ran down the path toward the village, calling to anyone she met. "To the ridge! Everyone to the ridge! Now!" Her voice was sharp, commanding, but also filled with fear. The villagers emerged from their homes, startled and confused, trying to understand what was happening. Children clung to their parents, while farmers grabbed tools, ready to fight if necessary. From the hilltop, Elena could see the valley in a new light, the valley she loved and wanted to protect. But the walkers moved with purpose. They were not exploring. They were searching. And when she noticed the strange golden light that surrounded their central machine, she knew why. They were after the energy crystals, the very heart of the valley's life and technology. The villagers whispered among themselves, fear spreading like wildfire. "Who are they?" a man asked, gripping a shovel. "Aliens," Elena said, her voice low but steady. "They want our crystals. If they take them, the valley dies." The fear was heavy, but Elena did not give in to panic. She had seen hard times before. She had survived losses, and now she would fight again. She turned to a small group of villagers, farmers, teachers, blacksmiths, even a few teenagers who had been wandering the hills. "Listen carefully," she said. "These creatures are strong, but they are not clever. We know this land. We know the rivers, the caves, the cliffs. We can fight them, not alone, not blindly, but together we can make them pay for every step they take." Her words were like sparks in dry grass. The villagers straightened. Fear remained, but courage grew in its place. They began to organize. Some gathered rocks and tools. Others set traps along the narrow paths leading into the valley. Elena instructed a few to lead the children to the safer caves near the river. And then he appeared. Garrick. No one knew where he came from. One day he was there, leaning against the old oak at the edge of the village, a dusty coat over his shoulders, a pistol at his hip, and eyes that seemed to hide storms. He was known as an outlaw, a gunslinger who had drifted from town to town, leaving trouble behind him. But today, Elena did not see the rumors. She saw skill, she saw survival, and she knew that she might need both. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice both sharp and cautious. "Name's Garrick," he said, his tone calm, almost bored. "And you are in trouble." "Yes," Elena said without hesitation. "And if you want to stay alive, you'll help." Garrick's lips curved into a half smile. "I don't help, but I hate watching things fall apart." That was enough. Elena didn't argue. She had no time. Together, they surveyed the valley. The machines had reached the first cluster of farms. One walker raised a long, glowing arm and fired a beam at a granary, reducing it to ash. Smoke rose in thick black clouds. Children screamed. Animals ran in every direction. The villagers, unarmed and terrified, scattered, trying to save what they could. Alina's heart pounded, but she forced herself to focus. She pointed to a narrow pass between two hills. They'll come this way next. If we can slow them, maybe we can save the rest of the valley. Garrick nodded. Traps? Yes. And the cliffs.
We can make them fall if we time it right. The villagers moved quickly under Elena's command.
They rolled boulders to block the path, dug pits and covered them with branches, and rigged nets to trip the mechanical legs of the walkers. Some carried spears and old rifles, while others simply yelled and threw stones to distract the machines. Garrick walked among them, his hands steady on his pistols. He showed a few young men how to aim, how to shoot, not for the metal body, but for the weak points he had noticed. Aim for the joints, he said. The blue lights are sensors. Take them out, and the machines stumble. By noon, the first real attack came. The walkers reached the narrow pass, their metal legs scraped against rocks, their glowing eyes scanning for movement. Elena held her rifle, her finger tight against the trigger. She counted silently. 1, 2, 3. The first net snapped over a walker's legs, tangling them. It stumbled, but kept moving. A boulder rolled down the hill, striking another walker squarely on its metal side. Sparks flew. The villagers shouted. Garrick fired precise shots, hitting the glowing sensors one after another. One machine toppled, its legs flailing, then collapsed into the rocky path. It was not victory. Not yet. But it was hope. Elena glanced at Garrick, who was wiping sweat from his brow. You're good, she said. Not for you, he said. For the valley. And she understood. That was the difference. He did not fight for fame, or money, or revenge. He fought for something worth protecting, something human. By late afternoon, the villagers had slowed the invaders, but the cost was high. Fields were burned. The riverbank was littered with debris. A few villagers were injured, and Elena knew the aliens would not stop. They would come back, stronger, smarter, with more machines. She called a meeting. In the town square where the wind stirred the dust and smoke, she spoke to the villagers. This is only the beginning, she said. If we want to save Valle de Solís, we must learn to fight together. We must use every strength we have. And we will need more help. A young boy raised his hand. Can we win? He asked, his voice trembling. Elena knelt beside him.
We must, she said, because this is our home.
And we do not leave our home behind. Garrick stood silently beside her. No words were needed. Together they looked toward the hills where the aliens had retreated. Together they were ready to defend the valley. And for the first time in many months, Elena felt something she had not felt since Miguel died. Hope. As night fell, the valley lay quiet again. Smoke curled into the dark sky, and the stars began to appear. But beneath the hills, hidden in the shadows, the alien machines waited. Their glowing eyes scanned the horizon, calculating, planning. And the valley, small and stubborn, braced itself for the battles yet to come. Elena did not sleep that night. She sat by the river, her rifle across her lap, thinking of every strategy, every trap, every plan, and she knew one thing for certain. She would not let her valley fall. Not today, not ever. And somewhere, in the darkness beyond the hills, Garrick sharpened his pistols, ready to fight beside her. The war for Valle de Solis had begun. The next morning, Valle de Solis woke under a quiet sun, but the calm was fragile. Smoke still rose from the scorched fields, and the air smelled of ash. The villagers moved cautiously, assessing the damage and tending to the wounded. Children clung to their parents, and the adults worked with silent determination, knowing the danger was not gone. It had only retreated. Elena walked among them, her boots crunching over broken branches and stones. She checked each trap, every barricade, and the boulders rolled into place. Her heart was heavy with worry, but her mind was sharp. Every move mattered. Every second counted. Garrick followed, keeping to the shadows. He watched the villagers with a critical eye, noting their strengths and weaknesses. "You can't just throw rocks and hope," he said quietly to Elena. "They learn. They adapt." "I know," Elena replied, not looking at him. "But we are all we have. We must make do." Garrick's lips tightened, and he nodded. "Then let's make it count." By mid-morning, the villagers gathered in the town square. Elena stood on a wooden crate, her rifle resting beside her. She looked at the crowd, men and women, old and young, all nervous but determined. Garrick joined her, standing slightly behind, but close enough to show his support.
"We survived yesterday," Elena began, her voice clear. "But they will return."
Stronger, smarter, and if we do not act, they will take everything. Murmurs ran through the crowd. Fear, worry, and a little hope mixed together like clouds before a storm. "We need a plan," Garrick said, stepping forward. "And we need to work together, not just fight. Think, trap, hide, strike." The villagers looked at him skeptically. "Who is this man?" someone asked. Elena's eyes met Garrick's. "He fights for the valley," she said firmly. "That is enough." Some villagers hesitated. Garrick was an outsider, a gunslinger with a reputation for trouble. But the truth was clear. They had no other choice. "Listen carefully," Elena continued. "The valley has secrets. Old caves, hidden paths, cliffs that can crush machines if we act carefully. We must use every advantage we have. And we will." With Garrick's guidance, the villagers began training. He taught them to move silently, to aim carefully, and to think like hunters, not just farmers. Some young men and women learned to shoot rifles for the first time, hitting targets with surprising skill. Others learned how to set traps, to roll boulders, and to use the river's flow against the invaders. Elena watched them with pride and concern. She knew courage alone was not enough. They needed strategy, and they needed luck. Later that day, she and Garrick set out to explore the hills beyond the village. They moved quietly, avoiding the paths the machines had taken, searching for hidden advantages. "Why do you help them?" Elena asked as they climbed a narrow trail. "You could leave, drift like always." Garrick's eyes scanned the horizon. "Because they have something worth protecting," he said. "Something human. Something real. You fight for love, for home." "I fight for the same." Elena studied him, surprised at the honesty in his words. "And what about your past?" He shrugged. "My past is over. Doesn't matter anymore. What matters is now, and what we do next." They reached a narrow canyon, its walls lined with jagged rocks. In the shadow of the cliffs, they found the entrance to a cave, half hidden behind bushes and fallen stones. Elena knelt, brushing away the dust. Strange markings covered the rock, symbols that seemed familiar yet ancient. "These caves," she whispered. "I heard stories from my husband, legends of humans who lived here long ago, who built machines to protect the valley. Could it be true?" Garrick stepped inside, his flashlight scanning the walls. "Doesn't matter if it's true or not," he said. "What matters is that it's hidden, safe. If we can use it, we have a base, a place to fight from." Elena nodded, a spark of hope lighting her face. They explored deeper, discovering tunnels that twisted beneath the cliffs. In one chamber, they found old machines, broken but repairable, energy nodes, mechanical arms, and strange tools of technology beyond their time. "This could change everything," Elena said, her fingers brushing over a metal console. "We can use these machines to defend the valley. We could fight them on our terms." Garrick smirked. "And maybe teach a few villagers to use them too. Then the machines won't stand a chance." Back in the village, the day passed with careful preparation. Elena and Garrick returned with plans to show the villagers, maps of the caves, and diagrams for traps. They divided tasks. Some would gather food and water, others would fortify the village, and a group would learn the ways of the ancient machines. Night fell, and the valley sky glowed with stars. The villagers gathered around a fire, exhausted but determined. Children listened to stories of courage, while adults spoke in hushed tones of what tomorrow might bring. Elena sat beside Garrick, watching the flames dance. "Do you think we can really do it?" she asked quietly. Garrick shrugged. "We have no choice. Either we fight or we lose everything. And I hate losing." A loud noise interrupted them, a distant hum, faint but unmistakable. Elena's eyes widened. The alien scouts were moving again. "They're testing us," Garrick said. "They want to see our defenses, find our weaknesses. Tomorrow, it gets real." Elena stood, her expression hard. "Then we must be ready. Every trap, every strategy, every secret of this valley, we will use it. They will not take our home." The villagers slept uneasily that night, while Elena and Garrick kept watch over the ridge. Their shadows stretched long under the moonlight, two figures standing against an uncertain future. The next morning, Elena led a team to the caves. They began clearing debris, studying the old machines, and learning how to use them. Some were simple: mechanical arms to lift heavy stones, levers to release rolling boulders, but others were more complex. Energy nodes that could power barriers and emit pulses to slow the machines. Garrick instructed a small group of fighters, showing them how to move quickly, strike accurately, and retreat before the aliens could respond. He taught them to think like the machines, to predict their movements, and to use the valley itself as a weapon. By mid-afternoon, they tested their traps in secret. A fake patrol of villagers rolled a boulder down a slope, striking an abandoned robot and proving that their strategy could work. Cheers rose quietly among the group. Confidence grew, tempered by the knowledge that the real battle would be harsher, faster, and more dangerous. As evening fell, Elena and Garrick stood on a cliff overlooking the valley. Smoke from the previous attack had cleared, and the land lay in golden light. "We have a chance," Elena said. "Yes," Garrick replied. "A slim chance, but enough to fight. And remember, sometimes hope is the sharpest weapon we have." In the shadows beyond the hills, the alien scouts had returned. They moved silently, observing the villagers, noting every trap, every hidden path. Their glowing eyes scanned the valley, calculating and recording, preparing for the next wave. Elena did not see them, but she felt their presence. She turned to Garrick, her hand resting on her rifle. "They'll come," she said. "And we'll be ready," Garrick said. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky red and orange. The valley stood quiet, alive, and resilient. For the first time, the villagers believed they could fight. For the first time, hope felt real. And deep in the caves beneath the cliffs, hidden and ancient, the old machines hummed softly, waiting for hands that could awaken them. Hands that could turn the tide of battle. Tomorrow, the real test would begin. The valley woke under a gray sky, the clouds heavy with the promise of rain. Elena moved quietly through the village, inspecting traps and checking the barricades they had built. Her eyes were sharp, scanning for weaknesses that could cost them dearly. The villagers were restless but eager. Courage had grown in their hearts, but so had fear. Garrick appeared silently behind her, a dark silhouette against the early light. "Scouts are near," he said. His voice was calm but edged with tension. "They tested us yesterday. Today they might come closer. We need to be ready." Elena nodded. "I know. Every trap must work. Every plan must be perfect. The valley depends on it." The villagers gathered, waiting for instructions. Elena's voice rang out across the square. "Today we defend, but we also observe. The scouts are not the full army. They are probing us. We must learn their tactics, their weaknesses, and be ready for the next attack." A young man named Tomas, eager but reckless, raised his hand. "And if they come at us, we fight?" Elena's eyes softened. "Yes, but carefully. Do not waste energy. Do not take unnecessary risks. We fight smart." Garrick stepped forward, showing a small group how to hide in the trees, move silently, and use the terrain to their advantage. "Think like them," he said. "They see, but they do not understand. They calculate, but they do not feel. Use that." By midday, a faint hum echoed through the hills. The scouts were moving closer. Elena signaled her group to take positions along the ridges and the narrow pass. The villagers moved with purpose, some carrying rifles, others with slings and traps. Garrick stayed close to Elena, his eyes scanning the horizon for movement. Suddenly, the first scouts appeared, moving in small groups. They were smaller than the machines that had attacked before, faster, and equipped with glowing sensors on their heads. The villagers held their positions, hiding behind rocks and barricades, waiting for the right moment. Helena's heart pounded. "Now," she whispered. Rocks and boulders rolled down the slopes, striking the scouts with precision. Villagers fired arrows and rifles, targeting the glowing sensors. The scouts stumbled, their calculations disrupted by the sudden chaos. Screeches and mechanical whines filled the air as they retreated to regroup. The villagers cheered quietly, but the victory was short-lived. A scream came from the eastern edge of the village. A woman had been trapped in a sudden attack. Elena ran toward her, Garrick close behind. But when they arrived, they found more than just a scout. It was betrayal. A villager, Mateo, who had seemed loyal, had guided the scouts through a hidden path. He stood there, panic and guilt on his face. I didn't want this," he stammered. They promised they would spare us." Elena's eyes blazed. "You sold your home?" she said.
Your family? Your friends? Mateo hung his head.
"I didn't know what else to do." Garrick's hand hovered over his pistol. Elena stopped him.
"No," she said.
We cannot waste our strength on anger.
We must fix this. Together, they freed the trapped villagers and repaired the damaged barricades. Garrick taught the villagers to reinforce weak points and guard the hidden paths. Matteo worked under close supervision, repairing traps he had inadvertently broken. Trust was fragile, but survival depended on it. By evening, the valley was calm again, but the fear lingered. Elena and Garrick walked to the cliffs, overlooking the village below. "We cannot rely on everyone," Elena said softly. "Some hearts are weak, even in our own home." Garrick nodded. "Then we protect the strong, and we turn the weak into allies, or they become a risk we cannot afford." Elena's eyes narrowed. "We need more than courage. We need cunning. And we need to anticipate every move they make." The next day, the scouts returned, larger and more aggressive. This time, Elena had a plan. Using the caves they had discovered, she and Garrick led a small group to set ambushes. They moved quietly through hidden tunnels, placing boulders and mechanical traps along the scouts' path. When the scouts arrived, the traps worked perfectly. Nets ensnared their legs, boulders rolled from above, and hidden fires forced them back. The villagers fired from cover, and Garrick's expert shots disabled the scouts' sensors with precision. The scouts fled, retreating toward the hills, leaving debris and mechanical parts behind. It was the first real victory against the alien forces, but Elena knew it was only the beginning. The main army would come next, stronger and more prepared. That night, as the villagers celebrated quietly, a council gathered. Elena, Garrick, and the village leaders discussed strategy, sharing knowledge and ideas. Garrick suggested teaching the villagers to read the scouts' movements, to predict their tactics, and to improvise traps on the fly. Elena spoke of using the cave's ancient machines to create energy barriers and mechanical defenses. The villagers listened, some in awe, others in disbelief, but all understood the urgency. Suddenly, a distant cry echoed from the northern fields. Villagers rushed out to find a group of young scouts had been trapped by a small contingent of alien machines. Elena and Garrick led a rescue mission, moving swiftly through the shadows. Garrick fired precise shots, disabling the machine's sensors, while Elena guided the trapped villagers to safety. The rescue was tense and dangerous, but their teamwork was flawless. The villagers' confidence grew, and even Matteo began to regain trust. When the rescue was complete, Elena addressed the group. "This valley is our home. We fight together. We protect each other. And we will not fail." Garrick nodded, a rare smile on his face. "And sometimes, the weak can surprise you. Remember that." The villagers returned to the square, tired but alive. Firelight danced across their faces, highlighting determination and hope. The bond between them had grown stronger through trial, and the first true sense of unity had taken root. Elena and Garrick stayed on the cliffs late into the night, watching the stars. The valley was quiet again, but they knew it would not last. The scouts had learned from every encounter, and the aliens would adapt.
"We've made progress," Elena said.
"But the real battle is coming." "Yes," Garrick replied. "And we'll be ready."
Every trick, every trap, every secret of this valley, we'll use it all.
The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the promise of conflict, but also the promise of resilience.
The valley had endured before, and with Elena and Garrick leading, it would endure again. Tomorrow, they would face the full force of the invaders. But tonight, they had proven that courage, cleverness, and unity could turn the tide, even against a superior enemy. And deep beneath the cliffs, the ancient machines waited, silent but ready, their dormant power waiting for hands brave enough to awaken them. The morning sun barely peeked over the mountains when Elena stood on the ridge overlooking Valle de Solis. The valley, once quiet and peaceful, now seemed alive with tension. Every tree, every cliff, and every narrow path held a secret or a trap. Today the valley would face its greatest test. Garrick appeared beside her, his pistol strapped firmly to his hips. His eyes scanned the distant hills where the alien army approached. "They've learned from the scouts," he said. "They know the valley is defended. They won't come slowly this time. They'll strike hard and fast." Elena nodded. "Then we must be smarter, faster, and braver. We cannot just react. We must control the battlefield." The villagers moved into position under her orders. Some were stationed along the cliffs, ready to push boulders and trigger mechanical traps. Others hid near the river, prepared to collapse the banks and flood paths the invaders might use. Children and older villagers stayed in the caves, safe but ready to assist in any way they could. Garrick led a small team along the side of the valley, using the cover of trees to create diversions. "Draw their attention," he whispered, "but do not get caught. Let the traps do the real work." The alien army appeared in the distance, their machines massive and sleek, their glowing blue sensors scanning the valley like cold, calculating eyes. They moved in formation, advancing with terrifying speed. Elena gripped her rifle tightly, feeling the weight of responsibility. "Now," she whispered, and the valley seemed to hold its breath. Boulders rolled down the slopes, crashing into the alien machines. Nets and mechanical arms flung from the cliffs, tangling legs and tripping metal bodies. Energy nodes, awakened from the caves below, sent pulses of light and power, confusing sensors and disabling machines temporarily. The aliens adapted quickly. One massive walker fired a beam that shattered a barricade, scattering the villagers. Another deployed smaller drones, buzzing and zipping toward the cliffs to disable traps. The valley shook with the sound of metal on rock, and the smell of burning vegetation filled the air. Elena moved through the chaos like a storm. She directed the villagers, adjusting their positions as the machines advanced. "Push them toward the narrow pass," she shouted. "Use the cliffs. Don't let them spread." Garrick moved with precision, taking out drones and scouts with expert shots. He leapt from rocks, firing as he ran, and taught the villagers to move in coordinated patterns. "Do not panic," he shouted. "Keep calm and aim for the sensors." The battle raged for hours. Sparks flew from damaged machines, smoke twisted into the sky, and the valley shook with the clash of human ingenuity against alien technology. In the midst of the chaos, the alien commander appeared, a towering figure, stronger and more advanced than any machine the valley had faced. Its sensors glowed brighter, and its mechanical limbs moved with precision and purpose. Elena's heart pounded. She knew this was the real test. "This is it," she said, turning to Garrick. "We face the heart of the army." Garrick nodded, his expression serious. Together, they led a team through the cliffs, using hidden paths to flank the commander. Elena triggered a series of traps, collapsing part of the cliff onto the machine. It staggered, sparks flying from damaged joints. Garrick fired precise shots at its sensors, causing it to stumble again. The villagers, inspired by their leaders, joined in. Mechanical arms from the caves flung heavy stones, energy pulses disrupted circuits, and nets entangled the massive machine's legs. For a moment, it seemed the alien commander might prevail. But human cunning was faster than brute force. Elena noticed a small panel near the machine's back, a weak point exposed by the collapse. "There," she shouted. "Shoot the panel." Garrick aimed carefully, his hands steady despite the chaos. He fired, striking the panel. Sparks erupted, and the machine shuddered violently. The commander stumbled, then toppled onto its side with a thunderous crash, shaking the valley. A cheer rose from the villagers, but the victory was not complete. Smaller walkers and drones still advanced, and Elena knew the aliens would regroup if given the chance. She signaled her team to push forward using every trap and advantage in the valley. The villagers moved with precision, their confidence and training paying off. Boulders crushed machines, energy pulses disrupted sensors, and the mechanical arms flung debris with deadly accuracy. Even Mateo, once a traitor, now fought with determination, helping to guide the younger villagers and secure the traps. Hours passed, but slowly, the alien army retreated. Machines fell, drones crashed, and the valley stood firm. Elena and Garrick, exhausted but unbowed, surveyed the battlefield. Valle de Solis had survived. Elena turned to Garrick, her face streaked with dirt and sweat. "We did it," she said, her voice trembling with relief.
"Not just us," Garrick replied, his eyes scanning the horizon. "Everyone here."
They fought with us. They fought for their home.
The villagers gathered around, cheering and embracing each other. Children ran through the fields, laughter replacing cries. Smoke still rose from the damaged areas, but the valley had survived. That night, the village celebrated quietly. Fires burned in the square and villagers shared food and stories. Elena addressed them, her voice strong and steady. "Today we defended our home, but this is only the beginning. We must remain vigilant. The enemy may return, and we must be ready." Garrick stood beside her, watching the faces of the villagers. "They have seen that humans are clever, brave, and united," he said quietly. "They will think twice before attacking again." Elena smiled faintly. "And if they come, we will fight again. Together." The stars shone over Valle de Solis, reflecting the determination in every heart. Deep in the caves, the ancient machines hummed softly, their energy flowing and ready. The valley had defended itself, but it had also awakened something old and powerful, a resource that would be crucial in the battles to come. Elena and Garrick sat atop the cliffs, overlooking the valley below. The wind carried the scent of earth, fire, and life. "We made it through today," Elena said, her voice soft, "but there is more to come." "Yes," Garrick replied, "and we will face it together. Every trap, every strategy, every secret of this valley, we will use them all. And no machine, no army will take our home." The valley slept under a blanket of stars, quiet but alive. The villagers rested, proud and resilient, while their leaders planned for the future. Elena knew that the greatest challenge had passed, but she also knew that vigilance and unity would be needed to survive the trials ahead. The alien army had learned something as well. Humans were not weak. They were clever. They were brave. They were unstoppable when united. And Valle de Solis, small and stubborn, had proven that in the heart of the stars, courage and ingenuity could protect even the most vulnerable home.